Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we can do today is we will discuss all the thinkers that we have done so far. Okay, so any doubts you have, we can discuss that. What you can do is you can turn on your mic, and I'm allowing you to turn on your mic. It is on in the setting. Then you can talk also. Others, please turn off your mic so that it will not be any disturbance for others.
So CSOP, these are the components of action system.
Which one?
So CSOP, cultural, social, personality, and organic. These are the
These are
component.
different parts of action system. Action system have 4 dimensions. These are the 4 dimensions of action system. And these are nothing but, towards the end, what we have discussed is these are nothing but the abstractions of AGIL model itself. And that's how we have taken it to an abstract level, or the grand theory. So these 4, which we have discussed as dimensions or parts of action system, is in fact the abstractions of AGIL model only. That is what Parsons says towards the end.
Okay, sir.
Again, I think some of you will still have the confusion, but I request you all to watch that video once again so that the things will be more clear with respect to that. Okay. But Parson, I hope Parson, things are very simple with respect to Parson. What all things you need to know? Parson is very simple. We have started with social action, and I've told you how Parson improved our Weber in his conceptualization of social action. So firstly, what we have discussed in terms of definition itself, right? Parson improved our Weber within the definition. So any act is social. Some conditions are given, 4 conditions, right? And then he discussed about motivational and value orientation. When it comes to Weber, there was only discussion upon motivational orientation, that the micro aspect. But when it comes to Parson, the macro aspect, the value orientation is also taken into consideration. So you can see on one side, he is bringing Weber, and on the other side, he is also bringing the dimension which is raised by Durkheim, the macro reality, the value orientation. Okay, and then we have discussed 3 ideal types, which is going to explain the 4 ideal types which are discussed by Weber in terms of instrumental action, or moral action, expressive action, like that. Yeah, this is what similarities and differences with respect to Weber and Parson. This is what they are going to ask you. So they will not ask you similarity and difference. They will ask you how Parson modified over Weber. This is how Parson modified over Weber. So what you need to stress on in which theory they both are talking about social action. So social action is what according to Parson and what according to Weber. You know that, right? So the definition you need to write first, and the conditions you need to write. Weber talking about 2 conditions. You know that it should be oriented towards others, and there should be some meanings which are attached. Then what Parson is talking about? Parson is talking about 4 conditions. Motivation is required, right? Norms and values has to be followed. Then investment of energy should be there. Like that 4 conditions you have seen. Weber talking about 4 ideal types. Like what are the ideal types that Weber discussed? Traditional action, Zweck rational action, word rational action, affective action. But Parson is talking about 3 ideal types, and Parson is able to comprehend the 4 ideal types which are discussed by Weber with these 3 ideal types. For example, expressive action is similar to affective action of Weber. Instrumental action is similar to Zweck rational action of Weber. Then moral action is similar to traditional and word rational action of Weber. More than this, what you need to focus or what you need to stress on this, if the question is asked in exam, is what? The motivational and value orientation. Weber is only talking. You remember that diagram which I've discussed. I don't have the pen and anything, and I'm just using my computer now, not the iPad. So I'm not writing anything like what we do in the normal session. We will discuss because the diagrams and the class and everything is already there with you, and it is there in your mind. Okay, so that is the idea in this Q&A session. I'm not discussing about, I'm not going to write anything. I'll explain the thing. Okay, so that motivational orientation and value orientation, that is what you need to stress on. Smriti, you can turn on your mic and you can speak.
Thank you, sir. So in Marx theory of class struggle, there are two things that he describes: class in itself and class for itself.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that one is subjective and one is objective.
Mm.
But I kind of lack some clarity over the subjective and objective criteria. I lack clarity in class in itself. Class for itself is quite clear for me,
Mm.
but the class in itself, I lack some clarity.
You understood what is the definition of class? What you mean by class, right? Like what we have understood as class. Class is the person's position in the production process. That's how Marx defined class.
Yes.
So it is your position in the production process. That means which is based on objective criteria. You are a manager means you are a manager, and that is your position. You are a supervisor means you belong to that. You are a capitalist means you are a capitalist. There is no change. That is objective criteria. So that definition that we have seen with respect to class, that is what you mean by class in itself, which is based on objective criteria. That is your position in the production process. When I say class 4 itself, that is when that class comes up with some consciousness. So they are aware about their common problem and they are uniting for their common goal, like that. That is when class 4 itself. When I say class 4 itself, there is an element of consciousness, and that is what we understood as subjective. Okay, the other one context, it is objective criteria, that is class in itself. Class 4 itself becoming subjective.
Okay. Thank you. Sir,
tell me.
In latency aspect, how a pattern maintenance and tension management.
One minute. Guys, please turn off your mic, all of you.
Sir, in latency aspect, you said that is a pattern maintenance and tension management. How latency pattern management maintenance?
Pattern maintenance. See, for anything, there will be pattern. Like the example that I've given to you. We follow a common pattern in this class, and every word for anything, there is a pattern. The individual instances will be very rare. Even when we talk about inequality, there is a pattern, right? Only if there is a pattern, we will try to study that. When I talk about caste, it is a patterned inequality. When I talk about class, there is a pattern which you can see in that. That is why we can say middle class, upper class, lower class, because middle class is having pattern. We cannot say each and every, we cannot take and study each and every individual. So pattern is very much important for anything. That is what we understood as pattern has to be maintained. Even in this class also, if you understand this class as a system, we understood this as a system because all the criteria are satisfied. There is an action which is oriented towards others and are in a state of mutual reciprocity. There is interaction and the other conditions also are satisfied here, right? So it is a system, and if the system need to survive, the pattern, there should be a proper pattern and it have to be maintained. Now, if the question is with respect to how family is maintaining that, in the context of family, I'm mainly talking about tension management. Tension management is the most important part in latency. Pattern maintenance is there, that is one thing, but tension management is the most important one. In that context only, we are talking about family. So family system is actually taking care of the tension, and family is actually helping in the management of the tensions of the individual who are part of the system.
But sir, pattern maintenance we are seeing in the society. This is a structural. It's come in the manifestation now. Why it is a latency?
No, latency means it is a hidden aspect. No, the pattern, we cannot, this is not something which is tangible or it is something which is hidden, right? So that is why it is coming under latency.
Sir, what is the difference between pattern variable and action system?
Pattern variable means what? Pattern variable in simple terms, if you need to write, it is nothing but the dilemmas. And Parson identified certain patterns in the dilemma, 5 patterns. And he classified all the dilemmas you face in terms of 5. That is what pattern variables. Okay. Action system means action, one action, another action, third action, constellation of action. That is what action system. And when you perform this action, in fact, you are performing action for the fulfillment of some goal or role. Right? So role is what expected, and that is what actually you're performing. But there will be dilemma when you perform these roles. Why this dilemma? Because of motivational orientation and value orientation. You don't know what to select, right? If it is in modern society, more of motivation. If it is traditional society, more of value orientation. But the societies which are in transition, you are in confusion. You don't know which side you need to go, motivation or value. Okay, if you go more with value, you may have to compromise your own achievement. If you go more with achievement, you have to compromise on your values. So there will be confusion. This confusion is what the dilemma. This dilemma are understood in terms of pattern. Some commonly seen patterns are there. And Parson identify 5 such patterns. That's what pattern variables: ascription, achievement, collectivity, diffuseness, specificity, universalism, particularism, right? So these are the pattern variables.
Sir, can we say action system are the roles defined by society?
No. Action system means it is constellation of action. Okay. Now roles are defined. Sometimes it will be defined. Sometimes it will not be defined. In traditional society, it may be defined. In modern society also, it may be defined clearly. So role expectation is clearly there in those societies. But in societies which are in transition, that expected role you don't know, right? The example that I've given to you, when you go for an interview, you see somebody met with an accident. So what you will do there? The role is not clearly expected, right? There will be a dilemma whether to help that person and compromise your interview, or to go with the interview and help, compromise your value and leaving that person to death. Okay, but in modern society, what is the role expected? It is clear that you will go for the interview because there are mechanisms to take care of that. Traditional society, the role is very clear that you're going to help that person because achievement is, considered not as a, big thing. The ascriptive values are more important in traditional society. But when it comes to societies which are in transition, dilemmas there. Role expectation, it is there in traditional and modern society, not clearly expected in modern society, but roles are there. We all are performing the role. I am performing the role. You are performing the role. While performing this role itself, you will face dilemma, right? Whether to attend classes of this teacher or that teacher, that is a dilemma. Okay, there also 2 things will come: motivational orientation and value orientation. Your own motivation will say that go to this teacher or this institute. The society or your parents will say something different, right? So there itself, you will see the dilemma. Every stage, you will see the dilemma, mostly in the societies where the role is not clearly defined. But you have to perform the role to achieve the goal.
Sir, based on the 5 pattern variable, Parson have defined 4 social systems, and one of them is universal.
No, not based on pattern variable. He is discussing social system. Pattern variable, social system have no connection. Pattern variables, he is explaining. See, which context we are talking about pattern variables? We are talking about pattern variables when you are doing an action. It is in the context of action we are discussing. When we discussed about action, I have told you for any action, you as an actor, you have to achieve the goal. To achieve the goal, you have n number of means are available to you. You select which mean based on 2 things: motivation and value, right? So your action that you're going to do or the role that you're going to take is based on motivation and value. Now, which one to select, whether I should go with motivation or should go with value, is a dilemma. This dilemma is what is actually explained in terms of pattern variables. It has nothing to do with social system. Social system is a different theory that we have discussed.
Okay, sir. I read it in Essential Sociology, and I was also confused in that part.
No, don't get confused. Even for thinkers, go for, if you need additional reading apart from the notes and class. Thinkers, you go with Vajiram only or some standard textbooks. That Essential Sociology you can use for other topics to get some examples, to get thinkers, and even in thinkers to get criticism. Otherwise, for thinkers, but why you need? We have done it so beautifully, right? Thinkers, we have done it in a better way. Then there is no point in change your understanding that we have done in the class by reading something else.
Okay.
You can go with, I would say you can go with Vajiram. If you need to improve upon that, if you need some more value addition, you go with that, because anyway that's a top teacher in India, so you go with that. But don't do that one. That is something which you can use as a guide, just to supplement what you have, not as a primary source. Keep that point in mind. Okay, this is a class that you're following, that is more important. Supplement it with something better than this, that is Vajiram. Okay, and you guys are in a position to read and understand anything now you see. Only thing is that if you don't have the touch as a fresher, you coming, then you read the thinker, you will not be able to understand. But at this level, now in sociology, whichever teacher, whichever textbook, I am expecting that you will be able to read and understand. So do that and select the best source, either Ubendra or Vajiram. These two is what you need to follow. Nothing else. Essential sociology, okay, it's a guide. Keep it with you, but only for value addition, not as a main source. Okay.
So while discussing positivism, so you
Uh,
have said that there is a difference between natural positivism and sociological positivism.
mm.
So could you clarify it?
No, when I say in that context, actually we are talking about thinkers, but we'll do that. When I say positivism in general, simply if I'm talking about, that is related to natural science. But exactly in the similar way, you cannot apply in sociology. Like for example, in natural science, only the observable facts, direct observational things are what actually taken. But when it comes to sociology, indirect observation is also taken. That is the reason why we are saying that there is a small deviation when it comes to sociological positivism.
So, but this criticism arise later, and we have said that initial sociologists were neither inductivist nor pure empiricist, although they were.
That is what they were neither purely inductivist nor purely empiricist, right? That is what sociological positivism.
So, but this phenomena or this criticism came later when we have discussed this.
No,
The later.
criticism we will see. We will use for criticizing. We can criticize anyone with it. Even for a simple point, we can some method. If you see, we will say it may not be able to use it because you need a trained investigator. On the other side, we will say it is cost. It is cost effective, so we can use it. Okay, like that. Criticism, don't look into that. We will use as per our convenience.
Okay, sir.
When I say neither purely inductivist nor empiricist means what? We compromise from that actual positivism. Actual positivism has to be purely inductivist and purely empiricist. But early positivists, they were not. So that is what sociological positivism. And when we criticize, we are saying the same thing. Because if you are a positivist, you should be purely inductivist and purely empiricist. But you are not that. So we criticized the same.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So can I go next?
Yeah, tell me.
So can you tell some clear-cut differences between interaction and common sense?
Yes, I will discuss that. But before that, there is one question which somebody is asking. What is the similarity and difference between alienation, Marx theory of alienation, and Durkheim theory of anomy? And in the WhatsApp group also, I have told you, right? This I will discuss today. Guys, tell me, when we discussed about alienation, in which context we discussed alienation? It is in, first you need to understand which theory we need to explain here. Okay, so seeing this, you may think that anomy is something which which is done by Durkheim, and alienation is something which is done by Marx, and there is no direct connection that we have established anywhere. But look into this. Which theory we are talking about anomy? We are talking about anomy mainly in division of labor. No. Division of labor. Okay, anomy, division of labor. Similarly, where we discuss about alienation also we are discussing actually in the context of division of labor. Why this alienation is there? Because the work is compartmentalized and you are losing the creativity. So it is because of division of labor, there is alienation for Marx. Similarly, in division of labor, one of the pathological form or the abnormal form is where we have discussed about anomy. Okay, it is happening during the time of indignations, desperation, elation. You remember we have discussed. So that first part is done. It is in the theory that we have discussed. Now, what is the solution? Second, you look, there are many things which you can write, but the way you need to structure it, what I'm saying, okay? Once you understood it is from division of labor, now it is going to be very easy for you, right? Now, what is the solution for Marx? How to solve? What is the solution you have given for alienation? Communism, right? So, and we have discussed about total man, right? It is possible for me to do one thing today, another tomorrow, to hunt in the morning, to fish in the evening, to rear cattle in the evening and criticize after dinner without being a hunter or a fisherman or a herdsman or a critic, right? That means I can come back to my being rather than social being. So communism, that means change of the mode of production. Entire mode of production need to be changed through revolution. That is the solution for Marx, for alienation. What is the solution for Durkheim, for anomie? It is a temporary phenomena. It's a temporary abnormality. So what is the solution? Solution is,
Automatic.
automatically it will be solved because some, the organization, the code of conduct, etc., has to be come up, and then it will be solved. That is what solution. Then one more thing. Alienation is ultimately what? Alienation is actually, now you talk about this theory of alienation. Okay, alienation is hindering your creativity. When he discussed about the theory of division of labor, there he is talking about autonomy also. So this is something which is apart from anomie, but still you can write this poem as well because it is from the same theory. On one side, Marx is talking about hindering the creativity, but on the other side, if this anomie situation can be overcome, then division of labor, if it is normal, it will give you the individual much required autonomy to produce. And similarly, if this anomie state is not there, if division of labor is normal, it integrates society. On the other side, Marx, it disintegrate or it create conflict in the society. Guys, this is enough for you to write a very good answer and develop upon this. Okay, more and more points you can think over it. Once you think, you will get more points.
So we
please
can
repeat
also
the.
give, so we can also give type of alienation in this question.
Type of alienation at this level, it is not required. Only if you don't have enough content to write, then you can add the type, because they're not asking about types here. If it is specific alienation question, critically analyzed question, then you can write about the different types. Here you just need to mention it is because of the typical system of the division of labor in capitalism, alienation is there. Maybe you can write alienation from the product and production process. Okay.
Okay, sir.
It depends on the demand of the question. You need to plan. Guys, again, this one, interaction and common sense. So that you need to combine the chapter 2 that we have discussed and the Mead that we are yet to discuss. Interaction is mainly coming with respect to Mead. Once you're done with Mead, then it will be clear to you.
So with regard to Weber's value rational action, and when we read that, and there is similarity between Weber's value rational action and forces of integration of Durkheim. So
no,
are there
I understood.
yeah.
I understood what you mean to say. It is just because I've given you the same example in both cases, but both are entirely different, context.
Yeah,
what
exactly. That's something I would like to
only thing is that I've given you the similar example because that example suits in both cases. Value rational action means you are doing something to uphold the moral value of society. So there I am explaining from the perspective of the action that you are doing. What action you are doing? You are doing an action to uphold the moral values of society. So it's a value rational action. Rational action because you know the means and ends. Value rational action because to uphold the moral value. On the other hand, I have discussed about altruistic suicide. That's a type of suicide, right? This.
Right.
If you're doing this action, there also you're doing an action. You're doing an action. It will produce this result. So in both contexts, I've given you the same example: the captain dying with sinking ship and the soldier dying in the battlefield. That is why you may try to connect it, but otherwise there is actually no connection. Okay.
Okay, sir.
But if you want to make a connection, even in that case, that person is doing an action to uphold the moral value. In that context, he is dying. So there he explained that death as altruistic suicide.
Okay.
Even guys, if you are, if you have done with sociology, and if you are helping some poor children, okay, learning sociology or learning math, you are going to a village and you are helping some poor children who cannot go to school or studying in the government school but not teachers and no money to go for tuition, and you are helping them. What kind of action is that? Value rational action. Okay, so don't connect it with altruistic suicide, and this both are different.
Yes, sir. Very clear. Thank you.
Parul, I didn't understood your question.
Sir, once you told that exclusivism belongs to both Parson and Merton. in the introduction part itself.
No. I didn't say so. What I said is Parson incorporated all the exclusivism which was there in the existing perspective. For example, when we talk about positivism, what they have excluded? What is the criticism in positivism? Ignoring? Tell me, Parul. Ignoring?
Micro aspect.
Yes, sir.
Ignoring micro. Similarly, when we discuss about non-positivism or idealism, ignoring macro.
Macro.
So what Parson did is incorporated both micro and macro. In fact, we have also discussed about British utilitarianism concept also, like not in the sociology, that is not part of our syllabus, but that is something which you will learn in your ethics paper. But there, utilitarianism is you are doing something for the benefit of you only. Okay, so mostly individual centric action. So that is also taken into consideration, the value. There is an action which you're doing, there is a value element also which are there. So that also. So what is the exclusivism in utilitarianism? Value element. Okay, not only the motivation. So
Okay, sir.
that is
Sir,
also
what will be in context of Merton?
Merton, I don't know why you are asking this. Have you seen any previous year question or?
No, sir. Actually, I was going through notes, and at the time of when we were discussing about all the social thinkers, that time you told that this exclusivism belongs to
Okay,
Merton and Parson.
maybe because some of the exclusivism in Parson, in fact, it is a criticism of Parson, right? For example, Parson is not using any specific methods. So Merton is using methods. Merton is giving a functional paradigm, right? Similarly, Merton is incorporating dysfunction in functions, but Parson is not doing that. So in that way, I don't know in which context I've used, but in case if you get a question like this, you should be in a position to write by using these contents. Like take the criticism of Parson and see how Merton improved over that, and tell he introduced neo-functionalism. What all things he have incorporated? He have incorporated the previous criticism like ignorance of dysfunction. And guys, just use that new concepts that we have learned in Merton. What all new concepts? We talked about dysfunction. We talked about non-function. We talked about alternatives, functional alternatives. We talked about net balance, right? We have not seen so far. Manifest and latent function, right? Middle range theory, paradigm, all these things are there.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Vignesh, ignore this question. Even if you're not able to understand, ignore it.
Sir, how
So
can we say Parson is structuralist?
Parson?
Parson is a structuralist.
Structural functionalist. Always say that structuralism, when you say that is different approach, Levi-Strauss, that if required, I will discuss towards the end, not there in the syllabus. Parson is a structural functionalist. In all his theories, like more than what we have done in this chapter, the social system and the action system and pattern variable and social action, we will have to study Parson theory in stratification as well. So I don't know, some of you might have attended already, but if not, there he is talking about inequality as something which is functional. In fact, he's a functionalist. So functionalist means what? Trying to see everything in functional terms. So every explanation will be given in functional terms. Something which is existing is necessarily providing certain function. That is what you mean by functionalist. Structural functionalist means in a particular structure, it is functional. In a different structure, it will not be functional. So their approach was like that. Okay, like when we discuss about caste system, can we say caste is functional in you? I can say caste is functional because this occupational differentiation or endogamy, because of this, so many things it is functional. Some people will say that. Some people will say it is dysfunctional because of exploitation and all. So Marxist will say dysfunctional. Functionalist will say functional. But can you say it is functional around the world? No. In Indian context, it is functional. So you have to use a structural functional approach. Later, when you study paper 2, M.N. Srinivas is following the same approach. Okay.
Okay, sir. One more.
So with regard,
Tell me.
With regard to social facts, you had mentioned normal and pathological facts, and you said pathological is something abnormal. So my doubt is it just abnormal or is it anything that is exceptional?
Guys, please turn off your mic, all of you. Pandu Raju, please turn off your mic. Okay. So it is not exceptional, it is abnormal. Sometimes exceptional things can become abnormal. Beyond a limit, for example, crime is a social fact. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Exceptional crime, there is nothing like that. If crime crossing beyond a limit, it becomes abnormal. Why crime is normal for Durkheim? Because certain rate of crime is normal, because when there is no crime, police system, judicial system, nothing will function. Okay. On a sudden day, suddenly some more and more crimes are happening, means there will not be a system to take care of that. So it is good to have some rate of crime so that things will be kept in check. So normal rate, it is fine. But if it goes beyond a limit, it is pathological. Beyond a limit. Okay. That is what abnormality. It is not exceptional. Okay. Similarly.
So
inequality.
Okay, sir.
Inequality is also, to an extent, it is functional, but not all level of inequality. Similarly, suicide. Certain extent of suicide is good, because suicide is reflecting the problem of integration and regulation. So you can check the problem of integration regulation. For example, some rates of suicide is there among the farmers. So the state can understand the problems faced by the farmer and can take larger measure to help the farmer, increasing MSP or giving subsidies, etc. Whatever measures the government can take, only by seeing that only they will take the action. Okay, so if no suicide is there, all of a sudden some big collapse and big issues there, means all the farmers will commit suicide, and that will be a disaster. So that is why certain rate of suicide is normal. But if it goes beyond a limit, then it is abnormal.
So while discussing,
but when it comes to institution like marriage or live-in, then do we by any chance call live-in pathological? No.
No. Live-in is normal social fact.
Normal.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
It is normal.
Okay.
So while discussing middle range theory, so we have talked raw empiricist theory and grant theory. So could you clarify the raw empiricist theory?
Which one? I didn't get you.
So in middle range theory, so you have said that there are two dimensions and we should be in the middle, raw empiricist theory and...
Okay. Raw empiricism means like what you see in the society, randomly you pick it and try to make some explanation. Is that possible? No. Complete empirical, if you go with, then generalization is not possible. You cannot generalize. Anything and everything you see in society, if you try to make a theory, that is what raw empiricism means. You can't do that. You can't make a generalization at the higher level. At the same time, if you go for abstract generalization, that's what we have seen in Parson, right? What is the problem? Testability is a problem. So what the middle range theory idea is all about, I think I've missed out that discussion actually, but it is very simple, right? Raw empiricism on one side, it is, the basic elements, basic theories that you are taking with no scope of generalization. But abstract things like Parson, no scope of testability. So what Merton says is, go with middle range. So you can generalize it, you can test it also. But one more thing, is he averse or is he against the grand theory? No. He is also talking about grand theory, but for him, you can make the grand theory. How?
Combining the middle range theory.
Combining middle range theory. Make so many middle range theory, combine it. What is the advantage then? If you do that.
So they can be empirically determined.
You can empirically test it. Okay, but the grand theory which is made by Parson, not empirically tested.
Yes, sir.
This one you can test it. If it is based on middle range, you can test it also.
Yes, sir, but he can't give in the example of that.
No, that is his way. He have not made any such theory, so he cannot give example. That is a criticism of middle range theory. Merton have never made any such grand theory. But middle range theory examples he has given. He is saying that the theory is done by Durkheim, in fact, is middle range theory.
So Merton theory itself are middle range theory?
Merton's theories are middle range theory. Anomy is a middle range theory. Reference group is a middle range theory. Even Merton says that Durkheim's theories, religion, suicide, all these are middle range theory. Okay, anomy is a middle range theory. Reference group is a middle range theory, small theory. Okay, we have discussed that.
questions. What is worldly asceticism?
This worldly asceticism means you focus on this world. The other worldly asceticism means the main life is in the other world. Belief in that kind of setup. Hinduism mainly follow other worldly asceticism. Okay, and this worldly asceticism we have discussed under Protestant ethics. So focus on this world and try to become successful in this world. Be self-disciplined, like that concept. In fact, it is like in Parsons' term, if you put it, this is more of achievement. Otherworldly asceticism, when we say, more of ascription. And one of the most important element of Protestant ethic that we have discussed, if you take that theory, this worldly asceticism, notion of calling, right? God created the world for its own glory. So just remember these keywords. And for capitalism, wealth, individualism, profit, and various ethics that we have discussed. Then make the comparative analysis. Remember the diagram which we have discussed, the theories of. But remember that spirit substance. Any doubt in causal pluralism, causal probabilism, worst hand, ideal types, these methods are clear? Okay.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, tell me, Harsh.
In adaptation, agile model, adaptation is fulfilled by economic system.
No, economic system in the context of society. Make it very clear. In the context of society, when we are talking about, see, guys, for any system, take any system, what we need 4 requirements: adaptation, goal attainment, integration, latency. I have explained that for any system, you need this. And all these are interconnected, and everything I've told you, interconnectedness I've shown you. We can see the, interdependence and everything. Towards the end, what I've told you, if we take society as a system, in that also you have adaptation, goal attainment, integration, latency. And in the context of society, who's fulfilling the adaptation requirements? It is the economic system. Like in your family, if you see who's fulfilling the adaptation requirement, who's the main breadwinner of the family, he's fulfilling the adaptation requirement, the father. Like that, economic system.
But sir, at highest level of abstraction, it is fulfilled by organismic system.
That we don't want to question, which is actually given by Parsons. So we cannot question what is that abstraction, what he mean to say. It is open to you also. Like just write towards the end, one paragraph, you write like that, what we have discussed in the class.
Okay. And in cybernetic hierarchy of control, the source for flow of information is cultural system. And it is flowing to social system, personality system, and organismic system. Does that mean towards the organismic system, information is decreasing?
Not decreasing. The source is what he have shown in that, when we discuss about the source, it is cultural system and it is flowing. The other one, basically you want to talk about energy and information is very much required for the survival. Okay. Yes. And one is the source of energy. What is that? Organismic system. The other is the source of information, cultural system. Based on that, we have drawn that diagram. In fact, Parson have given the diagram. It's not that it is decreasing, but that order need to be followed. And that diagram has to be there in your answer also. It can be a 10 marker. Even if it is not asked, if the social system is asked, it is a part of social system as well. You need to draw that and you need to explain. Now, again, chapter 10, social change also, you need to draw the same diagram and you need to explain. What is social change? If there is a break in the flow, energy flow or information flow, what will happen? The equilibrium break. When the equilibrium break, what will happen? You remember the other diagram we have discussed, moving equilibrium? Yeah, the feedback will be given, specific mechanisms, fulfill needs, bring the equilibrium. If there is a disequilibrium, the feedback will be given, act, and that also part of the same. Okay, all these need to be connected in your answers.
Sir, law of negation of negation.
Law of negation of negation. Somebody was asking me that day also, and I explained. Okay, law of negation. What do you mean by negation? Overcoming of old and new. Okay, so in the old setup, some problems is there. So negation and new system. For example, ancient, some problem was there. Feudal. You are discussing in that context. Marxian concept of dialectical materialism. We have given 3 concepts. In that, the second one is what we are discussing. That law of negation of negation. So ancient mode, contradiction, overcame. Next mode of production, feudal mode. So what is feudal mode of production? It is a negation of ancient. Okay. Then Feudal mode also there is contradiction. So you change to capitalism. What is that? Again, negation. So
Yeah.
capitalism is a negation of feudalism, one way, or you can say capitalism is a negation of ancient knowledge.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, in 2018, there was a question distinguish between fact and value in Weber's Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism. Sir, you just discussed about the spirit and substance, but fact and value, sir, how we can correlate this?
No, like you take it in that way. The facts are the Protestant ethic and the capitalist, the ideal types. These are the facts. Value means the how you interpret that. Okay, like how the religious values is actually giving you the spirit to act, and that will bring capitalism. So the value is also playing a role over there.
Sir, here it is clearly mentioned that you have to distinguish between both, and it is a 10 marker. So, in what context we can relate this fact and value with spirit and substance?
You don't want to relate it to spirit and substance in that way. What are the facts here? You can list down the facts if you want. Like you can talk about the substance part, the new economic system, factory system. All these are reality. All these are the facts. On the other side, these Protestant ethics are also facts, but there are some values also which are there in Protestant ethics, and that values actually help them to become capitalist, and that is what spirit. So differentiate between that and write an answer.
Okay.
And guys, but before that, firstly, what you need to do, explain what is fact, what is value. For example, if I ask you simply, is there joint family? What is a fact? Is there nuclear family or joint family? So tell me, the fact is nuclear family. But if value terms, if you want to say, it is joint family, because we have that value and we prefer jointness. That is value. That is value terms. Okay. So value, the meanings, the desirability, undesirability, values something on the basis of we judge something. All these definitions you have done in the chapter of value, neutrality, objectivity. Just go through that also, define that, and then come to these specific aspects. And again, let me tell you one thing. You even if you see this kind of questions, don't get shocked. Just if you spend 30 seconds and think, you will get the content from the theories that we have done itself. Everything is there in that. Only thing is that if it is not direct, think over it and automatically will come to you. Okay, so there is nothing which is going to come beyond this if you are very strong in thinkers. And I'm expecting that you're strong in thinkers. You have to be. You don't have any choice now.
Okay, sir.
Here we can link the value with spirit and fact with the substance.
No, you see, again, I'm telling you, the way I will write the answer, I've told you, there is one more thing. It's not objective question, right? It is not that you need to pick A, B, C, D. If that is the case, everybody will have to pick the same and only one answer will be there. Here, there is no single answer. More than what I have told you, if you have the better answer, that will be appreciated by the examiner, if you can convince that. Guys, it's all about your understanding and how you put it. Once you learn the thinkers and if you learn the theory, you need to be very confident if you have done with that. If you know the clear-cut functional approach of Durkheim, if you know all the theories that we have discussed, and if you can connect it to Marx and the Marxian approach and everything, be confident. That's it. Okay, any question which is going to be asked, you should be and you will be in a position to do that. Just that you need some time, you need some writing practice, you have to see some questions, and you have to experience that situation by writing some mock test. Once it is done, it will be good. It will be, it will not be any problem. At this level, when you see these questions, you may think, some of you will think that these are easy questions and I can do that. Some of you will think that it is difficult. But ultimately, when you start taking the questions and when you start writing the answers, like if you take 5, 6 tests or 10 tests, anytime you can do that, then it will be easy for you. Okay? Especially thinkers. The other part, even if you are not strong, it's okay. Whatever you write, you will get minimum mark, and minimum mark is guaranteed in paper 2. Yeah, tell me, any doubts further? Cultural lag is a different concept. That I will discuss in chapter 10. If required, that is there in Essential Sociology. Cultural lag means lag in culture. Not cybernetic hierarchy, that is different. Dialectical materialism, dialectical idealism, Hegelian dialectics, Marxian dialectical materialism, we have discussed. Is there any doubts with respect to that? Are you okay with that? Then division of labor comparison between Durkheim and Marx. That's most important. They will ask you, what all things you need to write? Division of labor comparison. Here alienation, there autonomy. Here it is dysfunction, there it is function. Here it is conflict, here it is integration, right? So, and solution, there may be temporary abnormal form in terms of anomy, solve it somehow by some code of conduct and all. Here it is a permanent problem, solved through revolution, right? Communism. Weber and Marx on religion. Weber says, religion created capitalism. Which religion? Protestant religion created capitalism. Marx says, capitalism created religion. Religion is part of superstructure, which is created by economic infrastructure. So, economic infrastructure created superstructure, that is religion, which will help in the functioning of economic infrastructure, that is nothing but capitalism. Okay? So, it will act as a soothing agent that will send the workers and motivate the workers to get exploited in this world, because other world, you will get heaven. That's why Marx's statement, that statement also you can write, religion is the hurt of hurtless world, soul of soulless condition, and it is the opium of masses, opiating the masses.
Sir, what is unanticipated consequences?
Tell me, what is unanticipated consequences? It is nothing but the outcome. You do some action, there will be two possibilities. Okay, there can be intended outcome, there can be unintended outcome. So, intended outcome means you are doing some action for this to happen. Unintended consequence or unintended outcome means you did something, but something happened accidentally, unintended.
Okay, sir.
Like you prepare, many times I've given this example, you're preparing for this exam with sociology. What is the intended outcome? You will crack this exam by scoring good in sociology. What is the unintended outcome? It will be like you score good in interview also and your essay also, because
ethics.
Yeah, that is why this is unintended.
Okay.
Or mother slapping a child for not eating the food. What is the intended outcome? The child will eat the food. Intended outcome. Unintended outcome, it may affect the psychology of the child. Mother never think about that, but that is an unintended outcome.
Okay, sir.
And intended can be functional and dysfunctional. Unintended also, functions and dysfunctions possible.
Okay, sir.
Parsons and Merton's theory in understanding Indian society. Parson, no way. Merton, you can say a reference group. They will ask you, I have given you that example. How can you explain fashion by using this theory of reference group? How can you explain your preparation and everything by using the theory of reference group? You want to become, this group, this IAS, IPS group. So that is your reference group, and you try to become one among that, and automatically this anticipatory socialization and will happen. And once the 6th attempt is over, you will automatically get demotivated. So the dysfunctions will be there like that. And this theory of anomy also you can explain in the Indian context. I've also told you yesterday, if you have attended the session, how can you use that theory in your ethics paper? That's That's the best way you can write and solve the case studies, just by using that theory. Okay. Just follow that plus minus approach. You'll get 4 different options, which is possible to you. So tomorrow what we will do is 7:30. I'll take few random topics. Next is something which I'm not going in the order tomorrow for 5 days because one more batch is there. So I'm trying to mix that batch for tomorrow. So some topics will be random to you from the paper 2. So there will not be any problem in understanding since we have done with thinkers and all. So some random topics is what I'm going to do for next 3-4 days, and then we will be back on the normal mode. Any doubts?
Sir, AGIL and ideal types both are abstract phenomena. So how to compare both?
No, I didn't get you. How abstract phenomena, yes, but why you need to compare ideal types and AGIL? Ideal types we have discussed mainly pattern variables are ideal types, okay? Because you can compare any dilemmas with the pattern variable. Social actions are ideal types because you can compare any of the social action, any action with ideal types. But why you put this ideal types and AGIL? What context?
Sir, because question is asked that compare Parson and Weber whenever it is asked. So how we can...
You have many more things to write now to compare Parson and Weber.
Okay, sir.
Compare mainly with social action. That is where the comparison is actually there. Because Parson, before formulating this theory, actually went to Weber place and even met with Weber's wife and got these informations. And after that only he made this theory. So he tried to make, in fact, this question have its relevance. This is how it is relevant because he tried to do some, modifications, improvement. It is evident. So they can ask you directly in that way. Okay, and the modification is what? Improvement is what? Motivational orientation and value orientation. Then definition. We discussed 2 conditions there, 4 conditions here. You can write that. And then what? The ideal types. And if further you don't have, you don't have content, you can write about action system, then connect it to social interaction, and briefly mention about social system and end of it. That's it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Guys, you will not face any problem with the content. It will be there, but only thing is that how you're going to align it, demand of the question, based on the demand of the question. Repeatedly read the same thing in thinkers, and I've told you most of the case that diagram itself will speak a lot. That's enough for you to remember and write from your side. And repeated reading is what required for sociology. I've told you many times, right? For GS, 1 time 5 books maximum you read, but for sociology 1 book 5 times. It has to be there and you should reproduce. So read, repeat. Repetition is the mother of learning. Not just the mother, father, mother, cousin, brother, step brother, everything is a repetition when it comes to learning, especially in sociology. Okay, so repeat. That PDF itself is fine, but I've told you supplement it with Vajira notes so that you will get a better picture, more clarity. Because I have made it only to the point, exam point. In case if you miss something in between here and there, supplement it with that. Okay, if you are done with this, we will stop here. Any more? We can wait for 5 more minutes. Or can we stop now?
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. See you guys.